Because he says it was unbelievable. I thought it was fake news. He said that California's woke politics and DEI are the reasons for the fires because Newsom has been tearing down dams because Native Americans, but he called them Indians, wanted some of the river back so they could catch salmon. And Gavin didn't just knock down one dam for the Indians. He knocked them all down. He knocked down 4 of the dams. I'm sorry, this is stolen land, first of all, okay? California is stolen land. Second of all, that's part of what always happens. These dams, there's preservation of the dam. So that was just complete, not only misinformation, but it was racist. And I think we need to also call stuff like that out.
Look, I think what this has shown us is for people who thought that Donald Trump has changed, he has not changed, okay? No. He is the same immature, insensitive, inappropriate oaf that he's always been. What he should be doing right now is putting out tweets saying, I thank the heroic first responders. I thank the countries of Canada and Mexico and all the others who've helped. I thank the surrounding states that have sent help. I have talked to Governor Newsom. I have talked to Mayor Bass. I have told them that my administration in 7 days will be ready to supply everything and anything that California needs. Californians, my thoughts are with you. Those are the things you have to say. If you need help in figuring it out, go look at everything that Joe Biden has said for the last 4 years after a natural disaster. I have lived in Florida for 44 years. I have seen so many hurricanes. You know what somebody wants at that time?
Well, yeah, what you have in Florida is actual good, competent leadership, the leadership of a Republican like Ron DeSantis, okay, which is why you don't get these types of reports and criticisms of incompetence when you have a real leader that is running a state that understands that, okay, yes, these disasters happen and we have to be prepared for these disasters. And clearly, Democrats, clearly the leadership of Gavin Newsom is not on par with the leadership of somebody like Ron DeSantis and the Republicans in Florida, right? That is the big difference because the mainstream liberal media, the cackling heads on a view, they're doing everything that they can to try to deflect criticism and blame away from the Democrats, okay? So we have to continue our coverage of this because it seems as if the American people aren't buying it, okay? The View, they are now covering the fact that people are blaming Democrats for the wildfire disasters that are happening in Southern California, in LA. And they're saying, no. This is not the time to politicize this, right? You're not supposed to play political games. You're not supposed to point fingers or play the blame game because ultimately this was caused by strong winds and it was nothing, absolutely nothing Democrats could do about this.
Here's how this works. There was a fire catastrophe in California. Had to do with winds. You know how they're always saying, oh, the wind. It actually does. The winds move things and sparks move things. And it doesn't matter how much water you have if 900,000 buildings go up at the same time. Now, having lived in California, having lost every house save for one that we ever lived in, I take great offense at pointing fingers. You should be pointing fingers about how can we help?
Yeah.
It's too soon to be saying, oh, it's Gavin's fault. It's nobody's fault. It's like us taking seriously that there are, magic lasers in the sky that direct the weather. That doesn't work. It doesn't happen. This is a catastrophe, and this is what's happened. And let's try to figure out how to work towards not having it happen again. But, we don't control Mother Nature. Mother Nature doesn't give a damn what we want. Mother Nature does what she does. And if you're in the way, this is what happens. And California is chock full of people.
Yeah, so you see now you heard that, okay? As I have expressed before plenty of times when covering this subject, I think that it is hilarious that the mainstream media, all of a sudden, they're saying when it comes to a disaster that Democrats are clearly responsible for. Democrats are taking blame for, oh, no. We're not supposed to politicize it. No, we're not supposed to play the blame game. It's nobody's fault. We need to just focus on the fact that we have a disaster at hand and nothing else, okay? It's too soon to point the fingers, okay? But they never, ever do this when it comes to a mass shooting, okay? When it comes to a disaster that they can blame Republicans for, even though it's not Republicans' fault, right? They never do this.
But yesterday, a Nashville Christian school became the site of the latest school shooting massacre, which claimed the lives of 6 people, including 3 kids. So we're just 87 days into 2023. America's already had more than 130 mass shootings, and the youngest sitting member of Congress, Maxwell Frost, did not hold back on who he says shares the blame. Take a look.
I am furious. Angry that 3 kids died today in Nashville, Tennessee. Angry that hundreds of parents had to cry their eyes out today, not knowing if their child would come home from school. And angry that we have to live day after day when we turn on the news to see rampant gun violence claiming life after life. And all of this is because politicians in this chamber that have been bought and paid for by the NRA, that put profits over people, over human lives. It is likely that at this moment, the next mass shooter is planning their shooting. What will this chamber do about it?
Nothing. They'll do nothing. They do nothing. It's all about the money. You know, Marsha Blackburn is a senator from Tennessee. She, of course, sent out her thoughts and prayers. She is 13th on a list of senators who received the most money from the NRA. She received over $1.3 million in donations while representing a state with 1,273 gun deaths a year. Okay, follow the money. This is what this is all about, the gun lobby. All these people who are selling guns, they make a lot of money off of children's deaths, apparently, in this country. They're worrying about, you know, other people, books, baloney items. This, they will not do anything about it. By the way, thank you, Joe Biden, for trying to put the ban on those assault weapons.
Wow. Wow. Isn't it amazing how that works, right? Isn't it amazing that when there is a disaster in which they can point the finger at Republicans, they have zero objections to politicizing the event, right? Almost immediately, right? The first thing they do, they blame guns, okay? Even though the individuals that are committing the mass shootings, it seems as if they have some issues, right? It's more about the individual more so than the gun. But again, they cannot wait to politicize a disaster in which children are losing their lives in order to try to smear Republicans, to push their anti-Second Amendment agenda. But now, all of a sudden, when it comes time to blame Democrats, oh no, we can't play the blame game. This is unfair. Right? You guys see how that works? You see how they was talking about how Republicans have their priorities out of line, right? And this is why this happened, okay? This is what they were talking about when it comes to mass shootings, okay, and gun control. But now when people are pointing out, rightfully, that, hey, Democrats have their priorities out of line, okay, when it comes to trying to fight against these disasters that they know are likely to happen. Oh, well, again, you're not supposed to bring that up, right? You're not supposed to criticize Democrats and say, okay, well, what are you guys spending your money on? What are you spending your time doing? What are you focused on? Okay? Because ultimately, when you look into what the Democrats are focused on, yeah, this whole excuse about how, oh, well, it's just the wind, right? It's climate change, right? We can't do anything about this. It kind of goes out of the window.
I'm not very sympathetic to there were 100-mile-an-hour winds. Not because it's not true, but there's been enough modeling that we know that these kinds of outlier weather events are happening in greater and greater frequency. Remember that crazy apocalyptic video of that exact same part of Southern California in 2018 burning to the ground? Because that was 6 years ago. This is not like it was a distant memory from 100 years ago. We knew in 2018 that these types of...
the Sepulveda pass.
So yeah. This idea that we were just lollygagging around and got caught off guard by 100-mile-an-hour winds, to me, is completely not an acceptable answer. We knew in 2018 that these things could happen. We knew across the rest of the United States that these outlier weather events were happening in greater and greater frequency. If you weren't sure, you saw most of the insurance companies try to dump Southern California homes' fire coverage 3 months before this event happened. So all this data was in the realm of the knowable. And then when you double click and you get into a little bit more of the details, there's a level of incompetence bordering on criminal negligence here that we need to get to the bottom of. So I'll just give you a couple of facts. In the 1950s, the average amount of timber, so wood that was harvested in California, was around 6 billion board feet per year. In the intervening 70 years, that shrank to about 1.5 billion board feet. And so you'd say, okay, well, that's a 75% reduction. We must be making a very explicit stance on conservation. It turns out that that's not entirely true, because what it left behind was nearly 163 million dead trees. Dead, like gone. And so you would say, well, those things should have been removed. And the problem is that then there's this California Environmental Quality Act, CEQA, hopefully I'm pronouncing this right, and a whole bunch of these other regulatory policies that limited the ability of local governments and fire management to clear these dead trees and vegetation. And I think that that's a really big deal. And when you double click on that, here's where you find the real head scratcher. Okay? Multiple bills, AB 2330, AB 1951, AB 2639, all rejected by the Democrat-controlled legislature, or worse, vetoed by Governor Newsom, that would have exempted these wildfire prevention projects from CEQA and other permitting issues. Then there were other bills to try to minimize the risk of fires by burying power lines underground. SB 1003, as an example, went nowhere, didn't even get to the governor's desk. So I'm just a little bit at a loss to explain these two bodies of data. One is everybody can see that these events are happening. Southern California lived through this exact type of moment just 6 years ago. All the bills that are meant to prevent this are blocked or vetoed. This is the ultimate expression of negligence and incompetence.
And that, my friends, is what the liberal media doesn't want people to know, right? They don't want people to know that this was preventable, okay? And that Democrats in California had plenty of opportunities and warning that, hey, this is preventable. No. What they want you to do is that they want to justify taxing regular, normal, everyday people into the billions to fight climate change, while at the same time not adequately preparing for the disasters that they say happens as a result of climate change, okay? And now the mainstream liberal media, they're now left wondering, well, why is it that people, why they're not buying into our narrative? Why are they not blaming climate change? Why is everybody blaming Democrats and not interested in climate change? Again, this is something that stunned a CNN analyst when looking into the numbers of the people who are now interested in climate change as a result of the wildfires. The numbers that he got was not something that he expected. Take a look.
I don't think Americans are making this connection. And the way we can see this in right here and now, take a look at the monthly change in Google searches. Look at the searches for wildfire. Up 2,400%. My goodness gracious. This is the most amount of people searching for wildfires ever, going back since Google Trends began back in 2004. But look at climate change. Look at the change. It doesn't go hand in hand with wildfires. It's actually down. It's down 9%. And I also looked in California. There has been no increase in the number of searches for climate change. So the bottom line is this. Americans are definitely interested in learning about these wildfires. They're interested in following the news about the wildfires, but they are not making that connection with climate change. That's the bottom line here.
That's a really key metric you're looking at there, the connection. Overall, Americans being worried about climate change. What have we seen over time?
Yeah, you know, we have seen a lot of extreme weather events over the last few decades, right? Hurricanes, heat waves, wildfires. You might expect that Americans worry about climate change with climate change worry a lot. You go back to 1991, it was 35%. Now, it was a little bit higher in 2007, a little bit higher in 2022. But look at this. In 2023, the last time we have data, 39%. That is not statistically significantly different from this 35% back in 1991. So despite all these extreme weather events, Americans are really no more worried about climate change than they were, what is that, now nearly 35 years ago? I mean, there's just no real trend line here, Mr. Berman.
So the question is why?
Why? Why are they not really worried a lot about climate change? It might be because they feel like there's not a whole heck of a lot they can do. So climate change, humans contribute a great deal. Wow. Again, there's no real trend line here over the last few years. 2019, 49%, 2020, 49%, 2023, 46%, 2024, 45%. That's actually down 4 points from where we were back in 2019. And so less than a majority of Americans believe that humans contribute a great deal to climate change. So the bottom line is that is a big reason why they don't worry a lot. They just don't feel like they can do anything about it.
So the trend line is going down, even as scientists say that the intensity of these storms and these conditions are getting worse.
Even as the extreme weather goes up, humans are not exactly as worried about climate change as they necessarily once were.
Harriet?
AKA, they're shocked that the propaganda is not working, right? That's what's going on here. They're shocked that people aren't looking up climate change or making the connection to climate change in relation to these wildfires. Well, again, the reason why is because the Democrats in their argument, it doesn't even make sense. If you really believe that climate change is the cause of these wildfires, and you know that these events are more likely to happen as a result of climate change, if this is the Democrat argument, then there's no excuse for not going out of your way to make sure that you have the resources and that you are ready to prevent the damage and destruction that happens as a result of these events occurring more frequently, okay? And this is the thing about the climate extremists that really gets me. We can argue about whether or not climate change is man-made or whether or not it exists all day. And in this case, some of these wildfires aren't climate change. It is man-made in the sense that you have arsons out there purposely trying to start fires and to take advantage of these fires in order to loot homes. Okay, so again, all of this isn't climate change, right, or a natural disaster. Some of it is literally man-made. But anyways, if you are telling us that these things are occurring with more frequency, then why is it that you don't focus more on adaptation to prevent the damage and destruction as a result of these events occurring more frequently rather than mitigation, which is not going to do a damn thing at all, right? These people focus more on mitigation. Oh, well, we have to stop emitting, right? We have to do all this and do all that. That's not going to amount to a hill of beans because China is the #1 polluter in the world. And as long as they are emitting 30 to 35% of the CO2 in our atmosphere, you're not changing a damn thing, okay? It doesn't matter if net emissions for the United States go down to 0. You're still not changing anything, right? So if you believe your own argument, your own theory, then it would make more sense to prepare and to focus on adaptation rather than mitigation. But again, to me, I got issues in regards to, again, the priorities of the Democrats, okay? And whether or not they actually really believe the things that they say. Or is this just a big grift from the progressives and the Democrats running the state, mismanaging funds in order to get themselves and their buddies rich, while at the same time having their hands out begging for more money from the federal government to fix a problem that has been caused by the fact that, again, their priorities are out of line and they suck at governing and they frequently are mismanaging the resources in their state. And again, this is why Republicans should be very skeptical about giving California federal dollars in order to recover without having some strict, very strict stipulations in regards to what they can use the money for and what they're going to do in the future in order to prevent stuff like this from getting out of control.
What's going to happen? They're going to, just like they've done for the last 20 years, California's going to run to the federal government and they're going to ask for money. And I think this time, hopefully, I think President Trump and the Republicans in Congress will say, look, we're just not going to keep doing the same thing again. So California's going to need a lot of money, and I feel bad. I have friends that lost homes. Some of the most wealthy real estate in the planet has burnt to a crisp, has burnt to the ground, and it all should be built back. But it has to be built back when California decides that they're actually going to use the water infrastructure that's been built in the state for the last 100 years. They're going to actually use it and allow the water to flow into places like Los Angeles. They're going to bring the timber industry back so you can actually efficiently go and get the logs and the dead trees and everything out of the forest, and so that you can actually, and then also managing that vegetation growth and building in fire breaks. That's what has to happen. Now, what I'm concerned about is, will these people that lost their home, who have consistently voted for people like Gavin Newsom, Jerry Brown, before that, who've given money to these radical green causes, who have embraced the Green New Deal, Are they going to sing from the same verse that they've been singing from for 30 years? And are they going to tell the people, oh, this is global warming? There's no issue here. This is all about climate change. If the politicians in California say that again, hopefully the voters in California will say, we're not going to take this nonsense anymore. Let's just let the water flow. Let's let the animals back on the land. Let's mow the grass. Let's clean the forest. Let's build proper fire breaks.
Yeah.
Let's have green areas. That's how you solve this problem, Maria.
Yeah, I agree. California and the Democrat politicians cannot be handed a blank check, okay, without some very strict stipulations and changes that are going to occur from them in order to prevent disasters like this from getting out of control again, okay? Because essentially giving them a blank check is just basically saying, hey, well, you know what? It's okay that you mismanage your own funds and that you let this stuff happen. Don't worry, we'll bail you out every single time, okay? And that essentially incentivizes these people to continue to mismanage the funds, because ultimately today, a lot of these people, they're doing it to enrich themselves and their buddies, okay? While at the same time, virtue signaling about climate change and how we can't do anything about this when we can do stuff about this, right? Absolutely, we can do something about it. So, you know, hey, I think that there should be a vigorous debate in Congress about the funds that California will or will not receive and whether or not they should get these funds if they refuse to capitulate with the demands from Republicans in order to prevent stuff like this from happening in the future. But let me know what you guys think. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. Most importantly, share a Black conservative perspective. Peace.